was egging it on, you know what I mean?
Literally
Like,
almost asking for at that point.
she literally was asking me to do it, you know what I mean? Like,
And so that's a trigger, especially people taunting other people. When you know people's triggers, that's a taunt. If you literally use things against them, if you know something like that would bother somebody's ego,
don't press
talking to
their
a man's face
buttons.
saying, "Yo, punch me in my face."
Don't
Do
press
it.
their
Do it if you're bad.
buttons.
Punch me. Like, you know, asking a man like, "Yo, do it if you're bad. If you're sick, do it to me." You know what I'm saying? What else can I expect? What's going on, everybody? It's your girl Jay Lucci. I am here with my boy
The boy Matthew, or you could call me Matthew or Maddie. Whichever one
or Mad.
is best
Like,
for you.
you're a man of different names. Today's episode is the last of the season finale. I'm wrapping it up. We're calling it a day, and we're ending it off on this note. This is an important note. Not true.
All right. So what's the topic for today?
Me and Matt have been sitting down. I would say collectively over the last 3 days, me and you have maybe spoken. I would say we've given at least 5-6 hours to this topic. Is it true?
Maybe even more. Yeah. maybe even more.
Today's episode of the Park Car Conversation, we're going to focus on both sides of abuse. Today, I'm going to introduce my guests. Matt, tell them where you're from. Tell them who you are.
So guys, my name is Matthew. I'm from St. Kitts and Nevis. I've been in Canada now for maybe like 15 years. I lived back home for 15 years, so I kind of got a good idea of like a difference between one place to the next.
Abuse. When you think about the word abuse, I think everybody automatically assumes that you mean physical abuse. Somebody's beating on somebody.
Yes, I think that's what everybody thinks about when they first hear about abuse, you know what I mean? Like, when you ever hear somebody say like, yo, this person abused me, you always ask what they do, you know what I mean? You never ask like what they
Where
said.
did they hit you?
You know what I mean? Like, everybody just think it's something about physical, but abuse can be in a lot of different
Forms.
in a lot of different forms, you know what I mean?
Beyond just physical abuse, there's mental abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's financial abuse. And the definition of abuse, whichever way you know it, when you abuse somebody, you take away their power and you use your power as a control over that person, whether it be physically, verbally, mentally. And so long-term lasting effects, if they're not addressed, then they don't get better.
Well, they just kind of come into your actual everyday life, you know what I mean? If you don't address things, like,
they seep in.
They just kind of stick around.
We've literally on our own fun time have deconstructed the topic of abuse, the topic of men and women, how they're portrayed in abuse. And honestly and truly, there were some moments where we totally disagreed with each other. Like, no. Nope.
Because we always see it from our own point of view, right?
Right.
If you take the time to actually look at it from somebody else's point of view, you might be able to actually see where they're coming from.
It takes two to tango. So when you say it takes two to tango, it also includes two people's emotions and two people's ability to control themselves at the end of the day. And so the topic of abuse, it boils down to people not being able to control their emotions. And so this is where our conversation started. This is where me and Matt really got into the nitty gritty of this conversation. I just wanted to be able to allow you to see and contextualize why we're able to say the things that we were able to say. Matt, tell them about your experience of abuse, because that was very vital to, your points as to why you felt a certain way. And honestly, if you understand the background story, there's certain things I would never think I would reason with, but I understand. So tell them about your experience.
All right. So, let's say I was maybe like 20, 21, somewhere around there.
Tell them how old you are now.
I'm 31 now. You know what I mean? So, it's a little while ago. I was still very young. You know what I mean? I was still learning.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I got into a relationship with a girl that, in hindsight, you know what I mean? Probably shouldn't have probably shouldn't have done that. You know what
good
I mean?
though. Hindsight. Hindsight.
But now, when I think back about it, you know what I mean? Like, I there was a lot of signs there that showed me like who she was. But when you're young and you're dumb, you know what I mean?
And sprung.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, and sprung, because a lot of my friends, my family, they all kind of like told me like, I shouldn't have been where I was in that relationship.
Those red flags.
But at the same time, I didn't want to listen to nobody. I'm just like, man, let me do what I want to do. You know what I mean? And
hard-headed.
Unfortunately, I had an experience where I literally had to call the cops on a person because I literally didn't know what else to do. You know what I mean? And like,
you're about to be framed.
Well, the thing is, it's like as a young male, you know what I mean? Like, it's very scary when you get put into a certain type of situation, especially if you've never been in a situation like that before, where somebody's willing to say or say that you did something to them, or you know what I mean? Like,
it's so messed up, bro.
Even when you try to just walk away from the situation, you know what I mean? Like, long story short, I had a situation where a girl was hitting on me, and like literally I was just trying to leave, and
she wouldn't let you.
She wouldn't let me leave. You know what I mean? And even if I just say, try to move her out the way, the minute I put my hands on her to move her out the way, it's like, don't put your hands on me or I'm gonna call the cops. And you don't really understand like the fear that kind of really puts through a man, because if they ever do it, you know what I mean? Like, I have no idea what would happen. A lot of times I came back because people who do those things, they're very good at manipulation as well. You know
why
what I
so
mean?
loud in the back?
Like, not just guys, not just girls. Like, both sides are really good at it, because they understand that if you like them enough and they do something that would really be crossing the line, that they just gotta cry and apologize and do all those things to say, hey, I'm sorry, while somebody else may fall into the manipulation and come back because they feel like that's the right thing to do. If you love somebody, you know what I mean? Like, if you love them, you'll come back here. And it's like, sometimes
that realness in the day, people can abuse people. Majority of the time, it's favored for the woman. People just automatically assume the woman, don't even hear the men's side out, and they're just automatically assumed guilty. You're an abuser.
Well, exactly. And it comes down to that. It's like, if anything happens, it's literally you're an abuser right away before getting any kind of context to the story. You know what I mean? And as we said before, like, we don't want to make this seem to be like we're saying abuse is okay, because it's not.
No, it's
not.
You
know what I mean? Like, it's not. But we just want to highlight to people that
this is a real issue.
It's an issue, and not just on one side. You know what I mean? It's on both sides. But we understand that we do got to take care of our, like, our daughters and our mothers and our nieces and, we want to take care of our women. You know what I mean? But we got to also realize that I got a brother and I got a dad and I got nephews. You know what I mean?
There's a quote I heard recently, and it was, equal rights, equal fights. And I know some people will say a man is not supposed to hit a woman no matter what. You're absolutely right.
Agreed.
Absolutely right. A man should never hit a woman by no means. In that same breath, a woman should never hit a man.
Agreed.
Don't put your hands on no man. Equal rights, equal fights. Just saying, minus the gender, regardless of physicality, who's stronger by nature.
Don't open up the door, man. Don't open up the door.
You don't put your hands on nobody, because if you look at this, you put your hands on somebody, you cannot expect somebody to not put their hands on you back. And this is where the argument comes down. People say self-restraint, but you have to have enough, as a man, you have to have enough restraint to not, because you're stronger. Women need, and this is a woman to woman, women need to, and beyond that, this is a conversation to my past self, okay? I wish I had this conversation with my past self. Women, me included, need to know that it's not okay for me to put my hands on somebody else because I'm mad to, do that, because it's nothing to you. You're bigger. No, you don't do that. You don't respect, because guess what? Now that I'm a mom, and I'm a mom of a son, listen, let me tell you something.
See it now.
You know what I'm saying? There's no, I don't expect any woman to ever put her hands on my son, no matter what. If you cannot communicate through your issues and get past it without putting hands on somebody, then we need to revisit this issue. This is the episode for you. I'm gonna share a little bit about my experience, right? Okay. And it's just something that our conversation in the last few days has made me think about. So in the past, unfortunately, I have been a very aggressive angry person. When I was angry, I could be very aggressive. I could be very hands-on. And unfortunately, I have put my hands on an ex-partner of mine. I actually have. And you know what? I was thinking about it because of the conversation we had. And I said, I know I've said this story before. I know people in our circle know, right? Because I've told them, he has told them that this has happened, and it's kind of looked over. I look over it myself, like, yeah, on that day, like, yo, I was heated, boom, 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 this happened, and that was it. But if roles were reversed, people would dead look at him like, yo, he used to beat her, like he's an abuser.
Yeah.
You know, remember that time he abused you? Remember that time he hit you? But like, it goes over people's head that like I did that too, unfortunately.
People just gotta realize, like, men are just human beings, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And just like any other person,
Yes.
we can overreact to situations, and in the moment we're never really thinking about the bigger picture, you know. We're just
Right.
thinking about what is happening right now, and sometimes people can't handle their emotion.
Then we started talking about the experience within our community.
Okay.
And Matt being a Catician, big up St. Kitts,
Bop bop.
you know. Matt's experience in the Caribbean, I think, resonates with me, as it will a lot of people of, you know, a lot of different ethnic backgrounds. But just because we're both West Indian, specifically in the West Indian Caribbean culture, that abuse is like, it's a taboo topic for men. For men, it's a taboo topic. Right? This is the point that we're kind of getting at.
Yeah, because people laugh after you if you say something like a girl's abusing you. People laugh at you,
Like
bro.
it's soft.
You know what I mean? So for me, I think maybe in the Caribbean, like, we don't look at it the same way as maybe people in North America do, because I definitely feel like we're a little bit desensitized to it. You know what I mean? Like, so I moved up to Canada after second form, which is basically, when you think about it, up here is grade 8. So I moved up here for grade 9, right? So I went to high school in St. Kitts for first form and second form, which is grade 7, grade 8. And in my experience, there was not one day where there weren't at least 2 fights or more. And the amount of fights I seen with girls and guys, it's a regular. You know what I mean? So I feel like people at a certain point, they kind of just a little used to seeing it. I'm not saying that they condone it, but I feel definitely in the Caribbean, like, when people know that kind of thing happen,
You mind your business.
yeah, you mind your business. Ain't none of your business. You stay out of the people them business.
Yup.
You know what I mean?
Wasn't that so? What? Who?
And the things I seen that with myself. You know what I mean? Like, one story. You know what I mean? Like, I was up here,
Story time.
up in Canada at the time. Me, my brother, and his wife. Now, you know, we were coming home. It's maybe like 12:30 at night, and we hear a woman scream. And she's out there looking to see what's happening, and we're just like, yo, come in the house, because we ain't trying to get up in people business. That's kind of what we're used to. It's like, whatever happening with them, let them there deal with it. You know what I mean? But when you kind of look at it now, it's maybe not the right way to look at things, because anything could have happened there. You know, like, I could have said I did have an opportunity to at least help in some way, and at that time, like, I just went back to what I'm used to. Is like, stay out of the people and business. You know what's going on in their life. You know what I mean?
Don't
But for
bother.
people who like to gossip so much, they are, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Headshot.
They're always talking about mind your business, and they're always up in people business.
Whoa, that's a conversation on its own. We'll heal as a community, okay? We need healing as a community in certain ways. And I think, you know, it's funny that you mentioned desensitization. This is something that we were both agreeing on. Social media is not the place for your relationship problems.
Definitely not.
ain't
Definitely
it.
not. I feel like people shouldn't really be putting their private life out there, like, for everybody, just like that. You know what I mean? Like, the reason it's called private is because it's supposed to stay private. It's between you and that other person, not between you and all your friends, or you and all the people on the internet. Like, who are they to kind of really be judging what is
Your
going on
business.
in your relationship? You got to deal with that, and if you don't deal with it, then who else can deal with it? You know what I mean?
Sometimes things get a little bit heated, right? And at the end of the day, no matter what kind of heat you have, at the end of the day, going to social media to bring it to people who don't know you, for eyes that are unwelcomed, for eyes that are bad minded.
Well, you when you put it to social media or even just on the internet in general, right? Like you kind of give people the access to really
Facts.
speak upon your relationship without them knowing anything about your relationship. You know what I mean? Like,
Big facts.
and that's kind of the problem that you have. But people go onto social media to blast their news, I guess, because they want sympathy. They want people on their side. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes that's what it gets too much about, like, who's right, who's wrong, who's on whose side. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
And when you said that, you said news, but when you said news, I low-key thought you said nudes.
no.
This is the thing. All right, let's talk about abuse on social media. Like, I think it just goes over a lot of people's heads that physical abuse is not the only abuse. That means partially, if you go on social media and blast your other half, your ex, somebody you were seeing, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that is abusive.
Well, in all honesty, I actually think most of abuse in relationships are verbal. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it never gets physical, you know what I mean? But
For
I
sure.
feel like a lot of people, especially in relationships, you get way too comfortable and you start saying things to people that maybe you should never really be saying. You know, after the fact, you want to talk about, like, you're sorry and this and that. The things that you can see online now, it's like kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
It's sick.
It is sick.
It's
It
sick.
is sick.
And so when you hear of another abuse case, or somebody comes out and they're abused, I think some people are just like, they're on it for a moment. And that's the vicious part. That's the toxic part about going onto social media, because for you it's your real life, and for other people it's just a show.
Yeah, it's literally just something to pass their time. You know what I mean? And
Facts.
they have no context to things, but they have big opinions. You know what I mean? So
don't take your social media as your personal diary of
it's
problems. We had to speak about this because I was even saying the Parker conversation, that's what it's all about, right? Vulnerability. So people can be vulnerable. So if someone expresses, their problems in their relationship, that's their vulnerability. But there has to be a difference and a fine line between vulnerability and your privacy. There's definitely things in your life, people's lives, that need to stay private just for the secrecy of other people involved. It's like, it's almost intrusive. You bring your situations about other people to social media. It's like, that person doesn't have, they can have, professions, people, family, people that are gonna hurt with them. And when your family hurts with you, they don't forgive people the same way.
No, I agree.
A lot of the time.
If you understand, you're upset. You know what I mean? Like, it's that's not okay. You know
It's
what I
not
mean?
okay.
Like, we really gotta look at it as, like, if you wanna be in a relationship, if you wanna have a friendship, you gotta really be able to respect people enough to
contain and
even
maintain
when you
yourself.
may have disagreements and
Yes,
things like that.
exactly.
Things can be sorted out in a way that is
When I say normal, like literally
Yes.
normal. Like, it is not normal if you cannot disagree with somebody without putting your hands on somebody. Like, and okay, so it goes even deeper, right? We spoke about this. The sensitivity of the actual topic at hand. So somebody could say something really messed up, but they start talking about your family, they start talking about this and that and this and that, that really, like, you said it. In relationships, people that emotionally understand each other, you love each other, you have these ties, you have memories, what triggers people. What triggers your partner.
Agreed.
So you triggering, like, what you were saying, woman egging on a man,
don't do it.
because and if that's your excuse, like, well, I'm a woman, you cannot hit me, and you egg a man on, it's like, at some point a human has a breaking point. A human. And so this is the thing, and we want people to really understand. That's what I want people to understand. That may be your breaking point, but if you cannot reach your breaking point without verbally getting over it and having to, like, put your hands on somebody, you need to revisit the drawing board. You need to go back to square one and ask yourself why you can't disagree with people and have heated arguments, if it needs to be, without putting hands on somebody.
Well, you may need to be seeking some help as well. You
100%.
know what I mean? Like,
100%.
It's something people gotta realize. Like, if you can't really control your anger, like, you may need to have to get some help with that. You know what I mean? Because that is very important. Like, you gotta be able to keep control of your emotions, you know.
And
And people always think they could change somebody else. You know what I mean?
always. You stick around in that hope that, you can fix a person who is so broken inside, a person who hasn't spent the time figuring out their emotions, their strengths, their vulnerabilities, somebody's ability to, know the things that they need to work on, right? And I can firsthand relate, because these things went over my head. If I was ever verbally abusive, I used to be very like rough and nasty in arguments and stuff like that. And again, like I said, I have been the person where it's like, you're not leaving this room, like, and it's the emotion. It's the emotion. Seriously, it's like, you're not leaving this room. Like, you can't. We can't talk about this, or you bring this up, or you have an issue about this, and all of a sudden you're a man now. You want to go because now I'm unsettled, right? People are always thinking about their own personal emotion in that moment, and in the end of it, that really relates to, some not good outcomes. And I had to learn myself, right? Nobody could have told me in those moments that what I was feeling wasn't valid. Like the way I was mad, like how, of course I can understand how, and you were saying that. Sometimes you can understand why people get hands put on.
Well, just think about it like this. How many times have you guys done something that once it was done, you really regretted? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean it was ever okay. And, you know what I mean? But it happens at times, you know what I mean? And we can't ever just bun out everybody the minute they do something that we don't like. Like, sometimes we got to be able to give the person a chance to come back from that. You know what I mean? Not saying make it easy.
But this is like the severity of abuse. Really, like, I really want people to hear this. Sometimes people don't get the ability to come back. Abuse goes so far that it claims lives. It literally ends up in domestic violence, murders, all these type of things where people can actually not come back.
Agreed.
And that's just like, it's like to excuse, okay, so one time somebody does it and you don't just cancel them, but at the end of the day, like, it could be the one time somebody does it and they take away a whole human being, a whole, whoever it is, to other people. That person has family, they have loved ones, and now you just took them away. They never come back. So there has to be that severity. Like, it's like, no, like, the bottom line is, as a human, you cannot put your hands on nobody. Like, nobody, like a male or female, it shouldn't be happening. And people can't let that go. Like, people's like own emotional traumas, their own ignorance, their own, whatever, arrogance, blocks them from seeing that. And so that goes back to, like, this is what we were tying it into. A lot of women, I feel like, think that they're exempt from the fact that they can be abusive. It's overlooked. In the Caribbean, you were saying that it's overlooked.
Well, so the reason I was saying is because there's a show that I was watching from back home, right? And it's literally called Questions. Like, they've had it on World Star, they got that Trini dude that does it as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of the
it's
questions,
the one with the interviewing.
Yeah, so one of the questions the man was asking was, what would you do if you see a woman beating a man? First man answer, I would just laugh. Imagine that. Imagine that's it. But if it was the opposite, you would never hear that. You know what I mean? Like, and I 100% get that. More times than not, if a man puts his hand on a woman, he's gonna cause more damage. I agree. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that ain't gonna happen. I agree.
The physical strength is almost unmatched.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why a man should never put his hands on a woman, because he automatically has a physical advantage on her. You know what I mean? But the reason, I guess, we're talking about why it should be both ways, why you should never put your hands on a man as well, is because you should don't bring that out of a person. You know what I mean? Right. Not everybody they've been in a situation like that is because they're an abuser. It may have been like you just said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing. They acted and they just saw that red and they acted, and once that act was done,
they didn't even know that was a trigger, and then that trigger hit them for the first time, and that was it.
And that's the thing, is like, it's once you do it, you can't take it back. You know what I mean? You can't, but what do you do at that point? Like, another story. You know what I mean? So
story time with the kids.
So one time, me and my sister, this is when my sister moved out. She was married at the time, or was engaged. Me and my brother, we lived at home.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was on vacation, and I cooked for me and my brother for the couple days, right?
The story's about to be bad
my
already.
sister comes to the house with her husband or her fiance, whatever they were at the time, and she asked me to have some, and I was like, nah, I don't really want to share this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it got to the point where we were about to fight. You know what I mean? And she was up in my face, literally hit me. You know what I mean? And that is something that I feel does happen between
over the mac and cheese, over the mac pie.
It was literally bro, how did that get there?
You want to know it too. I want to know too.
And that's how it is. I don't know how it got there. It blew up, and that's the thing. It's that's how just easy things can blow up. You know 100%. What I mean? For me at that time, I was never gonna put my hands on my sister, but she at that point was egging it on. You know what I mean?
Literally almost asking her at that point.
She literally was asking me to do it. You know what I mean?
And so that's a trigger, especially people taunting other people. When you know people's triggers, that's a taunt. If you literally use things against them, if you know something like that would bother somebody's ego,
don't
talking to a man's face saying, "Yo, punch me in my face." Do it if you're bad. Punch me. Asking a man "Yo, do it if you're bad. If you're sick, do it to me." You know what I'm saying? What else can I expect? We want to highlight that on both sides, there is equally as much strength in the power of your abuse. Whether it be small hits, if you're less strong, or verbally abusive, or whatever the case is, because on both sides, men can be just as manipulative, be just as nasty to women, just as thing. It happens all the time. I know you, and so it's close to home. When you said that a woman was literally about to say that you hit her and you didn't just because she couldn't get her way, and then the day that could have risked, especially you as a black man, you know what I mean, that could have risked your whole identity. That could have happened. And so at the end of the day, I want people to protect people. I want people to realize that, listen, you need to check yourself if you can even ever do something like that to somebody. Don't you ever think that it's okay to put your hand, if you're a male or female, put your hand on somebody else.
It's just unfortunately, the biggest problem now is that I feel we definitely take responsibility away from certain people. When they say there's nothing a woman can ever do that a man should put their hand, and it's bro, you're literally saying, hey, it's okay for me to do it because there's nothing I can ever do to make a man hit me. There's nothing I can do to make them hit me, and it's that's not true.
I understand that. That's something that you said that I literally had to hear it from you to think about it in that perspective. Because again, I can honestly say I was one of those things but granted the man is bigger and the woman is smaller, physicality and stuff like that. There should be no reason why you can't restrain her as opposed to hitting on her. And I'm not talking about one box and stuff, but actually beating her and stuff, that's canceled. No matter what.
100%.
That's canceled. You're
100%.
canceled. If you ever no. Talking about just getting her off of you, if you have to defend yourself, and if I will defend yourself just to get that person away from you, but to beat on, no, canceled right away.
I got 3 nephews, you know what I mean? I want to make sure that they never have to deal with some stuff like that, you know what I mean? Because in my experience, if I had made a different decision, my life could have been a lot different right now, you know what I mean? If I was dumb enough to let her get me to that place, my life could have been very different, and I was very mindful about that actually, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I don't want to sit here and always and say I never had the thought of defending myself back with other than just restraint, you know what I mean? But I also realize that
you're human.
You can't
you're
do
human.
that, you human. Can't do that. When it first happened, it did go through my head, but at the same time,
as it would go through my head, it would go through my head if it was a woman or it was a man. If you cross me in a certain way, it goes through my mind too. That's the thing. It just goes through somebody's mind. So listen, hey.
It's because when it happens, like it's a split second thing. Like when it happens, like your body's natural reaction is to react back, right? Like some people have that little switch there that doesn't let them actually go through with it, and some people just don't have that. You know what I mean? Like they're like, you cross me. That's all I really care about. For me in my situation, like I was angry when it happened, like, but I also in my head realized that, like, you can't let this affect your future going forward, because it definitely really can. You know what I mean? Like if I was to say, you know what, I'm gonna just react, I would be in definitely a different position right now. You know what I mean? So
reason why we are speaking about this topic today, and why I'm ending off the park car conversation season 1 with this, ending off the whole year. This is the last conversation that I'm gonna have, because I think it pushes the boundary of the vulnerable idea. The vulnerability of men in this case, when we talk abuse especially, is not spoken about. It's not given any platform of room. And at the end of the day, you're my brother.
Because men could take care of themselves, you know what I mean? So that's how we look at it.
That's how, deemed men are, society's way of just saying, okay, you guys are the soldiers that can't show your emotion. You're strong. You have to be thin. And that's a lot of pressure. Man, they just, people, no, it doesn't matter about your gender. People just, some people can't handle that pressure. And at the end of the day, they just, act out. And so, really, I want people to think about the idea that if we didn't have this conversation, I know some people, will still stand on, their fact that, a man should never hit a woman. It doesn't matter what people, a man should never, right? I want people to understand, as you're like my bro. I have brothers. I have a dad. I have a son now. And this is still a real reality for you.
Yeah.
This is a real reality for men. And I don't want to close a conversation off ever at the park car conversation, close a conversation off so where we can't talk about real life perspectives on things.
So I'm gonna say this for the viewers: ask any of the males in your lives and then see if it ever happened to them. You know what I mean? Like get their perspective if it has. You know what I mean? Because we wanna be able to see it from both sides. We wanna educate both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We wanna make sure people realize that keep your hands to yourself
at all times.
At all times.
And if you can't, seek help.
I agree.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Keep it all the way a buck. This is our real life. This is our real life conversation we've had.
I agree. We have hours of this, man. We have hours of it. Every time we're here, like we're up till like 5-6 in the morning, just like beer conversation. You know what I mean?
Literally. You done know the Park Car Conversation, episode 21. The boy Matthew in the house. Peace.
We out.
See you next year.